Welcome back to the City Current Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference and powering the good in our community. And we're honored to be joined by Jim Shulman. He's the CEO of Safe Haven Family Shelter and Vice Mayor of Nashville in Davidson County. How are you doing, Jim?
I'm great. You've got more energy than I do. Thank you for having me on the show.
Absolutely.
I'm excited to be here, and it's the holiday season, and hopefully things are really good and getting better for everyone. Let's hope so.
I agree. And so on your end, we're going to talk all about families experiencing homelessness and being able to help them get on the right path to success. Give us a little bit of history, though. When you talk about Safe Haven Family Shelter, give us some history for the nonprofit.
So Safe Haven used to be a very small organization. Used to be it's moved around a little bit. It's morphed together. It's been around, I think, for over 30 years. It basically is always focused on families experiencing homelessness. That's kind of what makes it a little unique and different. There are other organizations like Salvation Army that do this kind of work. But many people in the community think of individuals experiencing homelessness, which is also a major issue in the city. But Safe Haven has always sort of concentrated its resources and its services on families experiencing homelessness. When they moved into the current location, it was an old church building, and it had room for 5, with one giant bathroom, or a bathroom for men, a bathroom for women, and a big kind of an open area. Went through a capital campaign about 8-9 years ago and morphed it into 10 rooms that serve as temporary shelter for families. So there's a lot of area around. There's a playroom, there's kind of a living room, there's a laundry room, and then we have our offices here as well. So I've been here just under 6 months. I was president of the board for 4 years back around 2009, 2010, like that. But I just came over as the CEO about almost 6 months ago. And it's been very interesting, and it's a challenge. It's city is going through lots of different things, as we know. And affordability and affordable housing is a major issue in this city. And that impacts both individuals and families experiencing homelessness. So it's been an interesting move for me, and a lot to learn.
Well, and not just with the families and that aspect, but also with the pandemic, when you look at that and how that's changed the face of homelessness in so many ways, it's been a game changer as well. So let's dive into the model, because it is unique in the sense, as you said, where you've got the support for the families, but it's a holistic support where you've got opportunities to tie in with landlords and kind of get them on the right path on that side with their own apartments. You also have kind of the employment assistance and the kind of the job side of it. So there's a focus on children and making sure that the schooling is maintained. Talk about the model.
Well, you covered a lot of it right there. So it's a housing first model. You want to get when we talk about families, if you've got a family living in a car or couch surfing or in a situation where they really have no place to go, you want to get them into a shelter. You want to get housing in there right away. You want to get a roof over their heads. You want to get them stabilized as quickly as possible. And so the model sort of starts with individuals and their families moving through a coordinated entry system, which is run through the metropolitan government, so that everybody coordinates through so we can keep up with what's going on. We take people into Safe Haven, and then we immediately try to find them temporary shelter. That could include everything from finding a hotel situation to some type of temporary apartment living. Or when we open back up, and the shelter here has been closed because of the pandemic. When we open that back up, we have a place temporarily to house families. At that point, we have case managers that get involved and start working on, what these individuals and the kids need. You want to get the kids back in school. If they're not, you want to get them stabilized. You want to make sure they have the necessary resources and tools to go back to school. And then while the families are in temporary shelter, you're looking for a more permanent housing situation, like a house or an apartment, something that is much more permanent. When you move individuals over into the more permanent housing, you're following up with necessary services, what you would call wraparound services. So people are homeless for a variety of reasons, as we know. Complicated issues, it's not solved easily by doing one thing. Lots of issues, lots of things that are going on with it. So families may need services that would include everything from just financial services to employment counseling, to maybe there's a series of some mental health issues in there, whether you've got substance abuse issues, or whatever is going on. You really want to focus in on the family. You want to protect those kids, and you want to get everything stabilized. And that may take a little bit of time. It's not as easy as, you just move them into an apartment and everything's good to go. So you're going to have to spend some time trying to figure out what services do you need to put in with those families as they're housing, as they're finding that housing component. The goal of Safe Haven is to provide those services and get those services to kids as quickly as possible. Come on the back end with financial consulting, financial assistance, helping people kind of get to the point where they can take care of themselves. And there's an employment piece to it as well. So you're bringing all those services into place with this family, again, while you're getting the kids stabilized, with the hope that after about a year and some financial assistance in terms of rental, things like that, those families are good to go and they can leave our program.
You mentioned that affordable housing obviously is a big issue, and you do have opportunities to work with landlords to work on really some win-win scenarios. Talk about the kind of collaboration with different landlords.
So we have some very good property people here that are basically working because of a city that is growing so quickly and so many people are coming in and the cost of things are going up. You have to have some really good staff that have really good connections with apartments around the city to be able to grab apartments when they come available and be able to, provide them with the assurances that the rent will get paid, that if things are going to be taken care of, that there are services that are coming if need be. You want to be careful, obviously, with you've got privacy rights involved and other things, but in the end, what you want is a really strong working relationship with these landlords to say, we are a really strong organization. We know what we're doing. We have lots of people providing services, and these the families that we're giving to you in terms of an apartment relationship are going to be strong tenants. And then we help make sure that works. So again, a lot of it is relationship building. They know that if the landlords know that if there's a particular problem, and you'd like to say that there are never ever problems, but there are problems everywhere. So if there's a problem, we have people that the landlords can call and we'll take care of it. So they know that we're there to be helpful and supportive. At the same time, they are doing a major service for this city. We have, again, you're talking about, again, Safe Haven. And for this point, I'll leave the other groups. There's groups around the city that do tremendous work for individuals experiencing homelessness. We just happen to be Safe Haven, which we've got families. You're talking about finding a roof and permanent housing for families, for parents with their kids. And I don't want kids living in cars. I don't want kids having to go to school and having gotten out of car and then have to go in. I want our children in a stable, safe environment with a roof over their heads. And that's what this is all about. And those landlords, with our property people working with them, they may be providing, an apartment and getting paid for it, but they're doing the city a big service as well.
Absolutely. You mentioned not being able to kind of function at 100% in terms of the model with the doors open because of the pandemic. Talk about what the pandemic has meant to Safe Haven and kind of that side, and also too how you've seen homelessness kind of change because of the pandemic.
Yeah, it's the pandemic affected everything in so many different ways. So all of a sudden you had families with children, and could you bring them in? What's the best way to house individuals? A lot of it is you got to keep people apart, and our shelter is built so people are sort of together. So before I came back as the CEO, decision was made to house people more independently, which allowed people to be safer in terms of not mixing people together. And that has worked pretty well. Now, as we're not through the pandemic, but at some point we will look at reopening the shelter and taking safeguards to deal with that. There are, we'd love to get that immunity level up to a certain amount where somebody can say, okay, well, I think we're good, but this may be around for a while, and for longer than we think. And so we have to continue to take steps to deal with it. That impacts us in a lot of ways. I mean, in terms of deliveries, if I've been on deliveries, you go out, you have to be careful. Yeah, I mean, you've got families that do have small children and they may have been impacted. So our staff has to be careful. We want our families to be careful. So that has changed a lot of the way we do it, in terms of it's like an extra piece to the whole puzzle. You can't just rush in and start providing all kinds of different services. You want those services provided, but you have to be careful because of the pandemic. Overall, it's such as we are trying to weave our way out of all this, with businesses sort of reopening and more venues that are doing things, and with all the statutory requirements going back and forth in the litigation, there's a lot of moving pieces on almost every issue going on within the city, but it impacts the homelessness issue as well. And I'm not sure. Maybe the best way to say it is, or give you an example of how it can impact. So during the pandemic, if you remember, there was a eviction moratorium that the courts had put on because people were working or they couldn't go back to work, and stimulus checks were coming in, and everybody was just trying to hold it all together. So there was an eviction moratorium that was put into place, which allowed families that were having trouble to stay housed. That moratorium is gone, and we're keeping a pretty close eye on it to see if that means that those numbers are going to start jumping. Haven't seen it quite yet, but there is that concern that type of thing related to the pandemic can cause an increase in the number of both individuals and families experiencing homelessness.
Yeah. Talk about how the community can help Safe Haven.
So we are always looking for support, for help, assistance, volunteers. If they want to go to the Safe Haven website and find out how they can be supportive or how they can volunteer, we'd love to have their help. We have lots of events that go on throughout the year. We have a big event, Dancing for Safe Haven, that will be held in May. We have a hike that will be in November. We have events throughout the year. It's a kind of a fun way to be supportive of Safe Haven and know that what you're doing or participating in gives back to the families. But if you are interested in volunteering, just call us, and or it's probably better just to email us, and then you can be a part of the bigger Safe Haven family. Again, I've been here 6 months, so I'm still learning my way around. I think I've been through every part of the building, but you never know. So I'm learning from the staff. I think the staff is learning from me. But I'm more of a policy guy, more of a, why don't we try this and see if this works? How are we doing in the long run? Our programs, I think, work very well in terms of the times we have families, but I would love to see, I want to make sure that what we're doing when the families are part of our actual program, that we're providing the necessary services so that, in a year after they leave us, in 2 years, they got the services and they got the necessary help that they needed to break that cycle of poverty. We do not want to see families that, come into our program and we get them the housing assistance they need and the services going back and falling back out of that. If we can help that, we do not want that. So
give us some words of encouragement, not just for a Safe Haven Family Shelter, but also for you as Vice Mayor. Give us some words of encouragement for 2022.
Well, so I remember at the end of 2020, I remember everybody being so excited just to get rid of that year. And everybody, I just remember we were going to have this, giant celebration at the end of 2020 on New Year's Eve, just to be so thankful. And then I think everything had to be cut back again. 2021 has flown by. It has gone really, really quickly. But there's hope always. New year, there's always hope. We certainly ended 2021, if you remember, with the Christmas bombing. And then we've had a couple of problems since then in terms of, natural disasters and other things. But we've made it. We're here. And we'll see what happens with the virus. Always new strains showing up, it seems like, but more and more people have been vaccinated, which is good. I think people still are being careful, which is good. I think what you do is, I think from a standpoint of the Vice Mayor and related to Safe Haven, is that there is hopefully lots more focus after we've come, as we've been coming out of this thing. People have had time to think, maybe refocus, understand what is important, and then we take that level of momentum and then we push forward and we do really good things in 2022. So I'm hopeful. One of the things that we'd like to see is more civility towards each other, and an understanding that the more we can work together, the faster and better things can be. And so that's my commitment to 2022, is to try that and keep pushing to make things better for the city. And I think there's, I feel better about this coming year than I did last year, because I really wasn't sure what was going to happen at the end of last year and then coming into 2021, because things were still, we were still waiting for the vaccine. Now I've had my vaccine and my booster ready to go. So got a lot of hope for 2022.
Nice. Wrap up with contact information, website. So you mentioned email was a good resource as well. So where do we go to learn more about Safe Haven Family Shelter?
So let me get my card out to make sure I've got the right information and my glasses. So it's www.safehaven.org, SAFEHAVEN, www.safehaven.org. And our main phone number is 615 256 8195. 615-256 8195. You can give us a call or you can email us. Go to our website. It's I'm glad I'm over here. This is an issue I've always been interested in. And the hope is that by coming over here, push even harder. And so I think if we all put our heads together, people get involved, we're gonna, it's a complicated issue, but it's an issue that we need to deal with. And we're gonna try to figure out ways in Nashville to address the issues of individuals and families experiencing homelessness. So,
well, Jim,
anyway.
greatly appreciate everything you and your amazing team are doing. So thank you so much for coming on the show. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. And thanks for having me, and have a good New Year's. Okay. Good holiday and a good New Year's.